Closing that gap for all he's worth is the order of the day for Colin Blower, but he can't get any higher than 5th at the moment. Interesting to see if, as towards the end of the race, he came on strong. He does the same this time, right behind Yeomans now.
We're riding with Martin Crass, who's coming past Peter Wheeler again, going into camp. Peter is not going to be happy.
Well, it's either that or make him a director after this, I'd say. Ex-BBC man, now in insurance, and Crass going very well, Ben.
Indeed, we see this three-way battle between Martin Crass, Peter Wheeler and Rod Gretton behind there. Very experienced driver is Rod Gretton. I can't see that he'll be doing anything but looking for a way through whilst these two concentrate on the battle between them.
Peter Wheeler being oh so careful not to touch Martin because he'll get the bill for repairs. Wheeler on the inside coming charging down there, has his nose cut off and gets himself on the grass and spins it. 360 degrees, lets the clutch in and he's away. Hardly any delay, he's lost a couple of places. So Peter Wheeler, we go back to John Kent, we go back to the battle behind him, still with 33 there in 3rd place. Nick Creswell, under heavy pressure at the moment. And it's the youngster Yeomans who's providing the pressure.
Indeed, and I reckon that this battle will be slowing them down. I think Nick Creswell and Jason Yeomans have let Colin Blower close on them.
Yes, well, Blower, in fact, we know comes on strong at the end of the race, and he'll be looking an opportune way to get through. And I'd say coming up now, if there's a space on the inside, he'll go for it. No, it's the outside he's going to go for. Well, nobody really profited too much by that. Cresswell looking still to be very much the man to beat. Let's watch this trio again. Blower up to 4th. Beautifully timed past Yeomans. Now, is it another one on the inside? Looks at that inside line. Can't quite find the space to get alongside. Still short second. He's dropped back a little bit now. And John Kent. Martin Short. And Blower up the inside. Can he make it? Can this be 3rd place?
And that's Jerry Harrison doing a little bit of field ploughing there.
Well, he's coming back again, obviously. He liked it at Goodwood last week and liked the dry grass and wants to come out and see what the circuit's like. Here's Blower. Going for 3rd, he's got it. Nicely timed. I reckon that's as far as he'll go there, Ben.
Indeed, it's a long way to go up to 2nd place there, and we're looking again. George Purdy after his accident, and there's Mark Preston taking a very interesting line through there.
Very strange. Got himself all 4 wheels on the grass and almost loses it under braking. I'm not quite sure what he did, and probably I don't think he is either. Leaders come up, slower cars ahead of them. This could be the moment, perhaps, if Short is going to make a move to make it. Back markers dueling among themselves, don't always keep an eye out for the leaders, but in this case they go either side.
And they're alongside, but John Kent has the inside line. He's going to have to take it very tight through there. They're both sideways, oh my good grief, but John Kent manages to stay in the lead.
Yes, the man who had the happening in front of him, Nigel Tuscan, held on in there and didn't lose his head, because that could have been quite frightening, I would guess. These two taking no prisoners.
We're on board with Steve Cole again, looking ahead at Gavin Cooper, moving alongside Simon Toyne there.
And Cooper not obliging him by moving over there. Oops, that's a spin. Well, full 360, in fact, what's 360 plus 180? It doesn't matter. Here comes Kent, here's the checkered flag. Martin Short right behind him. Gap of about half a second between 1st and 2nd. 2 wins then for John Kent, who leads the championship. Blower 3rd, Cresswell, Yeomans and Cooper. And Blower, no doubt, pleased at least to get up to 3rd place after his problems. We see in replay that spin, and everybody, in fact, keeping out of the way of old King Cole, who's not quite so merry now, I'd feel. Kazi's lost a place in the championship. He goes down to 5th. Kent leads by 93 points from Blower. Then it's Ian Flux in 6th place. Round 8 of the TVR Tuscan Challenge at Donington Park. The TVR aerobatics team reduced to 1 as a result of the Civil Aviation Authority's bureaucracy allowing 1 of the 2 planes to fly. Steve Nguyen and Andy Gent both have jobs in the RAF as flying instructors at the Central Flying School at RAF Valley. Between them, they've got 20 years' experience. They're flying the single-seat Yak 50s with 450 horsepower, approximately the same as the TVR Tuscans. The ideal aircraft for aerobatics. It's been king of world aerobatics for many years. King of Donington Park in practice, as far as the TVR Tuscans was concerned, was Ian Flux, happy with pole position with a 1:39.08, almost half a second ahead of Steve Cole. Down in 6th place, Jason Yeomans, the only man not to break the magic 140 barrier of the top 6. For all that, it's going to be a close race, as away they go. And a good start from Flux, and we're looking at the back of his car now. Up they go towards Redgate, coming up alongside Flux there, Steve Cole. Cole going around the outside of him, right on his tail is Martin Short. And Martin Short following them now, down through the Craner curves towards the old hairpin. This has the makings of a tremendous battle up ahead. No question about it, the TVRs with this new engine have produced tremendous power this year and some great racing. And here's Rod Breton. He's well back in the field, giving himself a lot of work to do if he's going to improve on that position. Bit of bodywork coming undone there, not going to help matters. It's the flange over the top of the carbs. In the lead and hanging on there, it's John Kent, the man who leads the championship, but different colour scheme, so don't let it fool you. Kent out onto the straight. This is the Grand Prix circuit into the S, over the curbs, being pressured very hard indeed. Sideways. Does he catch it? Doesn't he? That was 28, Simon Toyne. Well, we're not to see. .33 comes up on the inside there, and that's Nick Creswell. But it's still Kent in the lead as they come into Goddard's for the first time. Right behind him, Fluxy and 22. And a little touch there. And you can hear that engine not running as smoothly as it might due to that piece of carb that fell off. Kent in the lead then, Flux behind him. 3rd place, Martin Short. 4th place, number 3, Steve Cole. Then it's Colin Blower next up. Down through the Craner curves. He who protects his tyres best could win this race. Flux hanging on to 2nd. Desperately trying to be smooth, as they all are. Tremendously high temperatures, a very hot day here at Donington Park. And here is Kent, the rest home owner, being pressed hard, Short behind him. And not far behind Short now, it's Steve Cole, as Mark Preston spins his chances away here. Gets back into the race, but after some delay. Over the curve once again, 1st and 2nd, and a gap opening up between these two at the front and what's going on behind, still with Martin Short doing the following. And a lot of pressure here from number 9, who really is going very hard and very well. That's Gavin Cooper. Gavin Cooper down the inside of number 5, Colin Blower, takes away his place. But Blower comes back into the braking area at Goddard's. Carefully not locking a wheel there. Blower still right hard on the tail there. That's the top 6. Kent, Lux behind him. Then Martin Short, then Steve Cole. Then now stretching that gap a little bit, number 9, Gavin Cooper ahead of Blower. And Blower finding himself perhaps with more pressure as he goes off down the hill there. Camera car once again. As I've said, the carburation I don't think is quite what it might be here. And down the hill, Peter Wheeler in number 8, being pressured here by Bob Sands. Sands closing the gap on the German. As Short now finds himself with pressure from number 3, Steve Cole, and Cole now really taking up the cudgels and having a fair go at him. In the lead, still holding on there, is John Kent. As a big manoeuvre there sees up a place for Bob Sands, down a place for the chairman, and challenging very hard at the moment, Rod Breton. Gretton with the camera car through on the inside. This time he's going to try to make it 2 places. Almost loses it as he goes in there. Collects it back together again and lost both places as a result of that. Probably one more as well. Hard on the tail of Bob Sands. 29. Jake Ulrich. And that's Martin Derman with Ulrich spinning there as he comes out. Just missing, in fact, the car in front of him and losing again another place or 2. Out front is still John Kent. A little bit more comfort zone between himself and the opposition at the moment. That opposition is still Ian Flux. But Flux driving very carefully in these conditions, preserving these tyres. Closing the gap, getting himself within a couple of cars' lengths here. As off into the gravel, beaching himself well and truly is Jason Yeomans. Over the curb, once again, Kent now under heavy pressure. No question about it. Pressuring very hard indeed now, trying to go around the outside and then tightening his line to come out close on the inside was Fluxy there, with still holding on to now a distant 3rd place, short with Cole behind him. So really a duel between 2 cars at the front for 1st and 2nd and 2 more for 3rd and 4th. With leaders coming up now to look at a back marker. You can see the lead that these 2 have pulled out. Flux with experience of everything from Formula 3 to Formula Libre to Formula 3000, really piling the pressure on. And piling the pressure on too is Rod Gretton, trying to sort Bob Sands out there. But Sands in a straight line, getting away a little bit. Differing line as they come in here, trying to go in tight and looking as if he can do it. Gretton on the inside, and Gretton gets through. All he's got to do is get out of that corner, and he does. But Sands pressuring him all the way down as the leaders are closer than ever at this point. No point in using the camera of the 2nd place car, which is facing backwards. That is, unless he changes this situation. As up comes Flux, intimidating this time as he's on the outside. Forcing a tighter line there by Kent, and Kent spins it onto the grass, locks it up, gets it back in 1st gear. There was no touch between them. That was in fact Kent looking really for where the guy was behind and not concentrating on getting on with the job. As a result of that, he lost himself 1st place, and here comes Ian Flux, now comfortably ahead. And Flux absolutely delighted with the way that that one has gone. In then and out of Goddard's, waving his hand with joy. It's Flux who crosses the line first. Long gap, a slower car before a recovering, but not too recovering, John Kent finishes in 2nd place. Then it's Martin Short, Steve Cole, Gavin Cooper and Colin Blower. A dramatic finish to a great race. So Flux gets the laurels, something that hasn't happened this time too often, because it's not been a particularly good year for Ian when it comes to winning, but he's obviously delighted with this. Delighted too is Martin Short, who now moves up to 2nd place ahead of Colin Blower, with Flux 4th, but Kent with a gigantic lead still in the championship.
Time now for our first visit to Oulton Park and the 9th round of the TVR Tuscan Challenge. So far this season, John Kent has proved very much the man to beat. But here at Oulton Park, Colin Blower is the man who's set fastest time in qualifying and will start from pole position. Alongside of him, Ian Flux, with Kent relegated to the 2nd row of the grid, and there he's joined by Martin Short. Row 3 and Steve Guglielmi and John Williams. Now, as we wait for the lights to change from red to green, I'm joined by Ben Samuelson. Ben, John Kent is a long way back in the pack.
Yes, a lot further back than he's accustomed to, and we're on board with Martin Short, who's alongside Colin Blower into Old Hall. Colin Blower gets it through in front, but a bit sideways at the exit.
So Blower accelerating now down into Cascades. Behind him is Short, then Kent, and behind a huge field of cars, and one heading the wrong way.
Martin Stewart going backwards, Bob Sands sideways, Nick Cresswell goes across the grass. Martin Stewart's able to rejoin there.
Well, bits of car and whole cars everywhere as we rejoin this dice for the lead. Colin Blower in front, Short in 2nd place, Kent the championship leader is in 3rd.
And here we see Peter Wheeler, Gavin Cooper off on the grass. They weren't even involved in that first shunt. It must have been as the other cars were trying to rejoin, so that means there must have been well over half a dozen cars involved in that.
Well, now Wheeler had something stuck underneath the car. I think that was some tyres that were left to mark the circuit. Back at Knickerbrook with the leaders, Blower still heading the pack, and there you see the gap where the incident took place, and there's quite a definite gap now between the first 8 or 10 cars back to 11th place or so. Through Druids they come. Here is that gap once again you saw there, and Blower, in fact, if anything, is starting to pull away a little from Short.
Kent has a look down the inside, but I think he's a bit too far back.
Now, Ian Flux looks very much like the man next up. Flux, who qualified in second position and is running back and forth at the moment, looking to find a way past John Kent. Can't do it at the moment, but he really would love to get in front of Kent. Kent, who's been so dominant in the series all season long.
I don't think Kent's looking down the inside. I think he's taking the defensive line to try and stop Flux coming by. There's Simon Wayne going through a bit sideways, puff of smoke. These cars, 450 brake horsepower, weighing only just over 800 kilograms. Very difficult to control.
That gives a fair power to weight ratio. As into Shell Oil's hairpin once again. Comes our onboard camera. Martin Short holding on to second position, keeping an eye on his mirrors all the time to see what John Kent's up to, but Kent is busy looking in his mirrors too to try and ensure that Ian Flux stays behind him. Out of Foster's, over the rise, and then down towards Knickerbrook once again. Blower continues to lead, and these four have now started to make something of a breakaway from the man in fifth position.
That's Steve Cole, headlights ablaze, followed by John Williams, and it's only John's third time in a Tuscan. Came out at Spa and impressed everybody, as he should, having raced at Le Mans in the C2 class in the past.
Well, a very impressive performance from Williams, and an impressive performance too from Colin Blower, who really has got the bit between his teeth and is breaking away from Short, who in fact is starting to fall back into the clutches now of John Kent.
John Kent's setup has always been quicker at the start than Colin Blower's, and there we see John Kent having a look down the inside. They're side by side. John Kent goes through. John Kent, championship leader, takes second place off Martin Short.
A lovely move there by John Kent, and Short must now be worried about whether or not Flux is going to do the same thing to him. He protects the inside line there as they go around Cascades. Back on the power now, you saw Kent's car just step out of line just a little bit as he sets off to see what he can do about Colin Blower in front of him. And Gavin Cooper in trouble there.
Gavin Cooper, who was involved in that shunt with Peter Wheeler earlier on. When the wind gets underneath the damaged bonnet on a Tuscan, it does have a tendency to flap up on top of the windscreen, and I think Gavin's race will be over.
Well, that can be a problem in any race car, but the TVRs are so quick. What sort of speed are they doing around here, Ben?
Place it at Oulton, they must be doing 135, 140 miles an hour.
Well, Martin Short wasn't doing that then as he locked up in his efforts to keep Ian Flux behind him, and you can see him just glance across to the side there as he goes past the slowing car of Peter Wheeler. And Short very keen to try and keep Flux behind him, and you can see there just how close Flux is. He can't get much closer to the man in front of him, crawling all over the back of Short's car. Underneath the Dunlop Bridge and up towards Druids, this would be a very brave place for Flux to try and make a manoeuvre.
They're doing something like 130 miles an hour as they approach, and it looks like Short gets out in front as they accelerate up towards Lodge.
Now we look back now to see whether or not Flux can find a way past. He looks to the outside, and Short defending the inside line. He's quite entitled to do that, so long as he doesn't weave all over the road, and defends the line very well, but Flux really, he couldn't get much closer to the car in front.
And Flux makes a spectacular show of it as Short comes down into Old Hall, very tight. He's going to go wide at the exit. He does. This is Flux's opportunity. Can he make anything of it? Yes, he does. There goes Flux through as they come down into Cascades.
Now Flux has the problem too that because he was on the wrong line for Cascades there, he may well have allowed Short to get that little bit closer to him, but Short in fact is dropping back, look. Now let's take a look at a replay of an incident that happened a moment or two ago.
That's John Reed in the works car spinning off. John Reed has a habit from time to time of spinning off, but very fast when the time calls for it.
Now he's collected it back together again. Flux now has got to see what he can do about closing the gap on John Kent, while in turn Martin Short won't want to let him get too far away, and Short has got it all wrong at Knickerbrook. Now, looks for a gear, finds one, sets off again, but that really has ruined his chances of snatching third place back from Ian Flux.
How he managed to keep Steve Cole behind him there, I will not know. Colin Blower, leader. John Kent in second. Then quite a gap as we wait for Ian Flux.
Into the closing stages then, and Blower seemingly has enough of a gap and enough of an advantage over John Kent to take victory.
Here's Peter Wheeler climbing out of his car in the pit lane. He won't be a happy man. Jean-Francois Beale in the pits as well behind. And we're back here with John McQuilkin. Following him is Roger Connell. Off goes Roger Connell. Roger Connell in one of the Rover engine cars. John McQuilkin in AJP. Roger's going to have had to have been trying very hard to stay with him.
Now Martin Short with the onboard camera. Look at all the empty track in front of him. Short continues in fourth place. Connell quite all right, gets from the car. But here's the leader, and there's the gap back to Kent. So seemingly nothing that Kent can do to close the gap on Colin Blower. And it would also seem that Ian Flux is fairly safe in third place.
We know that Colin Blower's setup favours the end of a race, so I don't think there's going to be anything that John Kent can do.
Well, up over the rise and across the start-finish line, onto his final lap. Colin Blower heading John Kent then. And just one more lap of Oulton Park to go before Blower will see the checkered flag.